Young girls and women talk about not being good enough or pretty enough. Young men talk about being worthless or powerless. Incidents of suicide and rates of addiction are on the rise. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, in particular, we are experiencing an epidemic of these emotions across virtually every segment of our society. Depression and anxiety have increased by 25% worldwide since 2020. In a study by the Boston University School of Public Health, published in September 2020, researchers discovered that the prevalence of depression amongst US adults had tripled between 2018 and the spring of 2020, just a few months into the lockdowns. Whereas before, 75% of American adults reported feeling no symptoms of depression whatsoever. By April 2020, that number had dropped to under 50%. That's a huge swing. But the problem goes beyond COVID-19, because there are groups out there, entire institutions and industries, if you're being honest about it, that are taking advantage of people's misery and selling them nonsense and making them angrier, feeding them lies, and inflaming their grievances. All for profit and political gain. These forces are incentivized to keep people miserable and helpless and to obscure how simple it really should be for them to engage with the tools of usefulness and self-sufficiency that are the primary weapons in the fight against unhappiness and apathy. That is, I think, why so many millions of people all over the world have flocked to podcasts and Substacks and newsletters like mine in search of answers that make sense to them. Things have gotten so bad out there in the culture that they're seeking out someone that they can trust, someone who refuses to play the bullshit games, someone who tries to be ruthlessly positive when everyone else is being relentlessly negative. Those are the people that I was bumping into in the gym every single day. And I felt a kinship with them because they were expressing a lot of the same emotions as I felt after I left office in 2011 and things fell apart. I also noticed that when I offered them advice and encouragement, when I tried to inspire and reassure them and pump them up, I was pulling from a very familiar toolkit. It was the toolkit that I've developed over the course of 60 years and followed successfully in my journey through the previous 3 acts of my life. It was the very same one I reached for more than a decade ago now when I hit bottom and I decided to dig myself out of that hole. This toolkit is not revolutionary. If anything, it's timeless. These tools have always worked. They always will work. I think of them like an element of a blueprint or roadmap to a happy, successful, and useful life, whatever that means for you. They involve knowing where you want to go and how you're going to get there, as well as having the willingness to do the work and the ability to communicate to the people you care about, that the journey that you want to bring them on is worth the effort. They include the capacity to shift gears when the journey hits a roadblock and the ability to keep an open mind and to learn from your surroundings to find new ways through. And most important of all, once you get where you're trying to go, they demand that you acknowledge all of the help that you've gotten along the way and that you will give back accordingly. This book is called Be Useful because that is the best piece of advice that my father ever gave me. It has stuck in my brain and never left. And my hope is that the advice that I'm offering you in these pages to follow will do exactly the same thing. Being useful was also a motivating force behind all of my decisions and the organizing force around the tools that I used to make them. Being a bodybuilding champion, being a millionaire leading man, being a public servant, those were my goals, but they were not what motivated me. For a number of years, my father didn't agree with my version of what it means to be useful. And I might not agree with your version when it comes down to it. But that is not the purpose of good advice. It's not to tell you what to build. It's to show you how to build and why it matters. My father passed away at the same age I was when I brought my world crushing down on me. I never had the chance to really ask him what I should do, but I have a good idea what he would have told me. Be useful, Arnold. I wrote this book to honor those words and to pay forward his advice. I wrote it in appreciation for the years that I've had that he didn't, which I've used to make amends and to climb back from the bottom and to build the fourth act of my life. I wrote this book because I believe that anyone can benefit from the truths that I've used throughout every phase of my life, and that all of us need a reliable roadmap for the kind of life that we've always wanted to live. But most of all, I wrote this book because everyone needs to be useful.